Hello, I'm Dave. He's Chris. How's it going, Chris?
It is going, and I'm going to say right off the top, hi to you. We've been talking for like 15 minutes, but hello, you. And then also hi to people watching because they haven't been talking for 15 minutes. But also, I will say, Dave Hewitt, I would love it if we could get, what's a reasonable number of subscribers to get out of this show? What do you think is a good get for us from this show? Extra subscribers
from this one show. Let's shoot for 20.
20. I want 20 extra subscribers. All you have to do is click the little bell. It would make a big difference. We're trying to grow the channel. Please subscribe. There, I did my little thing.
Thank you, Chris. Today we're going to talk about our DraftKings lineups, get some picks out there for week 6 to help you get ready. But first, we want to talk about Le'Veon Bell. We don't know where he landed because as of this recording, he hasn't landed yet. But Chris, I know you watch all the game film, and I can't bring myself to watch the Jets. So what have you seen so far this year? Does he have anything left in the tank?
It's not very much film, right? But it is kind of all we have. And so I picked out some plays for us to cycle through pretty quickly. I'm not going to require that producer Dave do tons of work to them. But so I'm going to start with a few plays from week 1, and then he didn't play again until week 5. I think you can see on a run like this one that he was still willing to bring the hammer. I don't think it's an effort problem. Like the rare occasion when he had a half a second to breathe in the backfield and get going, he could punish a tackler in the hole. This was the very next play in the same game. Let's just let this stand in for. I don't think anyone's going to be shocked to know this was the main source of the problem. Like, nice block there, left tackle, good job. It's a game and a half worth of a sample size. What's most frustrating to me is why wouldn't you use Bell more like this? He's slot left. Dave, if you show this to people from the press box angle, you can see the route. He's matched up on a linebacker, Matt Milano. Good luck. It's an out and up. You can certainly dream of what this would look like with a better quarterback. Absolutely. But Dave, I think it's fair to say and question whether he has anything left. I want to watch this run from the end zone. It's not a very good run. It's a late developing hole to his left. I don't know. I think that early stage Jazz runner explodes up through that hole, and he obviously doesn't here. Like, okay, this is a 9-yard gain. He doesn't do anything to really get it. And my impression is, well, it's such a limited size of sample, right? But if it's blocked, he'll punish you. He still will. He'll run straight. And if not, it really hasn't been great. I think what we're seeing, like on a play like this one, is Le'Veon turning into a power back. Still a good receiving back, but just sort of a banger in traffic. And then lastly, I'm just going to leave you with this. This is not so much about, maybe it's a little bit about Bell, but people heard me grousing multiple times on the podcast about this one. I'm just spending a second on how weird a play call it is. It's 3rd and 1 in your own territory. Mm-hmm. When you call a naked pitch out like this, you're saying, oh, we can't push you. We can't get 1 yard if we just run a power play, which certainly a comment on the offensive line, but also, I mean, does Bell have a ton of juice to get the yard, even if he has to do it against free runners? I didn't think he did. So I can't make definite conclusions at this point, but he hasn't shown the raw materials, and some of that certainly can be the lack of quality of the offensive line. It's hard, as you know, to parse these things apart and know where the talent ends and the bad situation begins, but he's still going to be worth something, but I'm not sure he's Le'Veon Bell anymore.
All right. Well, in leagues where people are still playing David Johnson because there's not so many options at running back, I don't think people are really dropping Le'Veon Bell. At least I'm not. Maybe others are.
Oh, no, nobody's dropping Le'Veon Bell. We don't know where he landed.
Right.
No question you're not dropping him. That's really not. The question is, what does he have left? We don't really know.
Yeah, we'll find out. But something else that we'll find out is who's going to win this 4-week block of our DraftKings contest. You talked to the first winner, the lucky winner. Was it Dustin, I believe?
Dustin was the first chunk lucky winner. So like he amassed in our contest. We're putting a link on the all over the place. Dustin was the person who amassed the most cumulative points. And it's funny, he said to me, I didn't even cash high in any of the 4 of them. He said, I don't think I finished top 30 or 40 in any of the 4 contests, but he was just really consistent. And we talked for, probably longer than he wanted to talk, Dave, to be totally honest. It was like an hour and a half. And he was like, I really got to go. And I'm like, hey, one more thing. You want to hear a song? I didn't really do that. But it's super fun. So the weeks 5, we've already had week 5, but weeks 5 through 8, the cumulative winner is going to also Skype with me at the end of that chunk. Plus, I mean, you just can win money. The thing that maybe people don't realize is DraftKings doesn't do this for a lot of companies, people, whatever. Like, they don't take any money out of this. This is an 1,100 person DraftKings thing that if people get the DraftKings app or go to DraftKings.com, use the code HarrisTube, and then the link is right here. You join this private thing. Like, all the $5 entries in this contest go back to the winners. DraftKings takes $0 from it. They just want our listenership, viewership to be happy and to use DraftKings and to play other DraftKings games. It's like a good little gateway for people. So
yeah,
fun contest.
It's fun. It's $5. I came in 115th place and I still more than double my money. Like, that feels pretty good.
That's better than I did. I mean, we could talk a little bit about last week. We both had players who were, I think we both had Patriots maybe. And so they didn't wind up playing. So I had to severely reshuffle. I mentioned on the podcast, I had to severely reshuffle. And I reshuffled to a great stack. I had Deshaun Watson, Will Fuller, Brandin Cooks, and I had Zeke Elliott. I was on my way. And then everybody else wasn't good enough. And man, there's just been a lot of points.
Yeah, I had to pull out Singletary because the game was moved. But it worked out because I got Josh Jacobs. And that worked out for me.
It sure did.
Something else, it worked out, I should say. KLY Rowe was our winner from week 5. I forgot to say the name. Wanted to show it here, show our top 10. So come play with us. Dethrone him or her who is in first place is this 4-week chunk.
That's right. I mean, that's the number to shoot for right there.
But enough about last week. Let's look forward. Let's talk about our lineups, work our way down. QB on through. Chris, where'd you go with QB?
Yeah, I did Stat Padford. I did Matthew Stafford in the matchup against the Jags. I've mentioned this on the podcast as well, but I've struggled in DraftKings so far, and I found myself kind of going back to the old maxims, to the old saws. Like, all right, what teams have the implied high point totals from their over-unders and their point spreads? And the Lions are one of the higher teams of the week. They're almost at 30 points in terms of projected points. And if you're in a halfway between a cash game and a GPP like our contest is, it's not a terrible idea to stack. So I started with Stafford with the idea that I was going to stack maybe not multiple players with him, but I don't hate the matchup against the Jags, and I don't feel like I think the value on Stafford is good, and then also the value on his number one receiver will wind up being great.
All right, I like your quarterback more. In my head, I was hearing yours and Andy's discussion about bad quarterbacks as I was debating between two bad quarterbacks. So I went with Tannehill because I wanted to build a stack. But I wanted to take Fitzpatrick, and I never thought I was going to say the sentence. I wanted to take Fitzpatrick, but they're both 5,900, so I could literally just swap them out depending on which way I wanted to go with that.
Okay. And did you take Fitzpatrick?
I didn't yet. I took Tannehill. We'll see when the weekend comes if I end up.
Yeah, well, I get it. I mean, the great thing about taking Tannehill is that he has a very affordable number one receiver relative to his production since he's been back. I don't think the A.J. Brown price has caught up yet. I certainly considered him. We should also just say that we're recording this before we know the result of whether the Falcons-Vikings game is going to happen. I apologize for not mentioning that. So, like, I would have considered Kirk Cousins as well as Fitzpatrick as potential also rans because I don't fear the Falcons defense at all. We're not positive that game's going to happen. There's been conflicting reports or whatever, but I'm going to have a couple of Vikings on my team as we go here.
All right. So where'd you go with your running backs?
I paid up at running back, and I have to say I paid up for the first guy is someone who I don't usually advocate for. I have Derrick Henry. I think he's the second most expensive running back behind Aaron Jones. And at some point, you just kind of want to partake of the fun. Anybody who watched Tuesday night would come away with the theory that, like, oh, nothing could ever go wrong. He can be terrible for the entire game and still, like, I don't know. Did you get to watch that game?
I did.
And your impression of Derrick Henry?
My impression was that was a great stiff arm that people are going to remember and forget about the rest of the game.
It didn't count, right? It didn't count. I thought you were going to do your impression and then just kind of go, like, fall. That's my impression.
I was just going to huff around here.
I mean, he scored 2 touchdowns at some point. I'm just kind of, I've seen enough Titans-Texans games to feel like there's a big number out there for him. You have the passers. I have the runner. Oh, and then the other one I picked was James Robinson. This was kind of I couldn't really find. There are some iterations of my lineup where maybe I'll combine a Lions passing stack with a receiver, like maybe a Keelan Cole is pretty affordable this week on the down end. But it was kind of my way of saying high scoring game, James Robinson partakes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I couldn't do Henry because I was just too much Tennessee, right? I looked at it and that didn't make sense.
Never too much Tennessee. Never.
I don't believe that's true, but we'll find out. So something I was thinking about while I was building the running backs here is we do the show and we talk about who we built for our lineups. Like we're trying to give the best picks, but with the running backs this week, it really felt like a pool to me of which of these 6 or 7 guys is going to make my budget work. So I looked at Henry like you had. I ended up going with David Montgomery and Jonathan Taylor. I really just played the workload. Jonathan Taylor,
right? Well,
from
so
Indy.
Just spoiler alert: when we get to my flex, it's going to be David Montgomery, another player that I don't have in any context at all. But the Panthers have been if you check out harrisfootball.com and look at the Harris Index, you'll find that the Panthers have been extremely friendly to opposing running backs. We just saw Todd Gurley do work against them. Montgomery's got a lot of work coming to him. You're another Bear friend of mine. I mean, how do you look last Thursday? Was he great in that game? Really good, huh?
No, but if you read the box score, it's fine. Which it's starting to feel like the way to enjoy Bears games is not to watch them. But we're winning.
I mean, I picked him, so this is not a criticism at all. He's on my team too. I don't think the price has caught up with what the workload is, and the workload is pretty good. But he really, I said this to Mitch on the show, but he's the Gardner Minshew of running backs. Like, does any Bear fan that you know or you personally like, do you think he's the running back of the future anymore?
No, I was excited when we got him, and I have been let down. It's sad.
Well, we'll see, but yeah. Indeed. Other names I thought of Taylor. I thought of Myles Gaskin.
Okay.
I mean, it's the Jets aren't an easy matchup, but he's PPR and you don't get workloads like that usually at, what is he, 5,400 typically. You don't. And then last week we were all hot and bothered to take Damien Harris, and as a value, of course you're right. There's a group of a few higher priced guys you're choosing from. Aaron Jones is going to be a fine pick, right. I think, but if you're looking on the cheaper side, what happened in the last week to make us think Damien Harris shouldn't be as good a pick as he would have been last week?
I went the other option. I went James White as my flex.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I just PPR. If my flex at 4,800, I'll take some catches, and if he falls down 2 feet later, I don't care as long as he gets the catch in PPR.
So I paid unbelievably down at tight end, but I can only do it if the Vikings play. Hint, hint, hint. But I was able to afford some really good receivers, and so I have Adam Thielen as my wide receiver 1. I need to make sure that game is happening, but he's been one of those very few trustable wide receivers. He's at 7,300, among the most expensive, but not quite the most expensive. I mean, if you want to pay up for Devontae Adams, it's 8,000.
I did.
So, and so did Mitch on the show, and it's totally defensible. He just feels like he's beyond reproach. Also, so my others. So I mentioned Golladay. I implicated Golladay in my Matthew Stafford stack. What's up with Galladay's price at 6,200?
I don't know. I locked him in too. I feel like he's one of the best wide receivers in the league. It doesn't make sense that his price is here. There's something in the computers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's something about an algorithm. That's right. And then McLaurin at 5,700. I know what's wrong, but I'll take the possibility of what goes right. This feels like kind of a stacked lineup, but you're going to see why. It's because I punted 2 categories.
All right. Well, so I mentioned mine. I mentioned Adams. I mentioned Golladay because we matched there. And then I have Shenault for my last wide receiver. I could afford A.J. Brown. It's there. But hint, I already have a different wide receiver. So I didn't want that much Tennessee. It's my recurring theme this week.
Wait, what's the hint then? If you have what is your flex? What's your other?
I went Jonnu Smith for tight end.
Tight end.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. Well, other wide receivers I was thinking of, I certainly could imagine a Cousins Thielen stack, right? I have Thielen. I could have gone Cousins earlier, but I also can imagine, like, if you wanted to play the negative Atlanta defense, I could see Cousins, Thielen, Justin Jefferson. I don't love it at 6,000, but if you wanted to play the matchup game, I could see it. I also could see like that prototypical GPP stack of give me quarterback, 2 receivers, and the leading receiver from the other team. So if you told me you were going to build a lineup that went Cousins, Thielen, Jefferson, Calvin Ridley, I could see it working. That's much more. That's not a cash game type lineup. That's much more of a shoot the moon kind of lineup, but I could see it working. If you wanted to go cheap, Brandin Cooks only made it up to 5,000 after a huge week. It would be easy for me to chase that. And then I mentioned Cole before. I might have to wind up switching things around to Cole for 4,900.
And that's because your tight end was who? How cheap? You punted?
Irv. I have Irv. It's so funny. Like, he stands out to me as ridiculous at 2,500. Everybody else is OJ Howard at 2,500. Everybody else is out of the league. And Irv Smith is there at 2,500. Like, well, I just saw him on national TV against the Seahawks make a couple of amazing catches. Like, I'm punting the category anyway. What do I care about? I'll just spend the minimum.
Yeah. If the game happens, I think I might end up having to go there because it's a little like defenses where I'd rather just, for the most part, I'd rather pay down. Because
what are you going to get at a tight end? Unless the guy gets a touchdown, is it 4 points? Unless you want to pay for Mark Andrews, who's really good and going to be worth, get you more dollars per point, but I don't think he'll get you as much dollars per point or points per dollar rather as the leading receivers will.
Right. So that brought us all the way through tight ends. Defense. What do we do with defense?
I did what any right-thinking, rational person of the world would do. I looked at the bottom of the list and I said, but I don't think the Colts offense is that good. Hi, Cincinnati Bengals.
As did I. That's actually where I start my lineup is I go look at the cheapest defense and then I know that I could pay a little more per position. And that's just working for me.
Let's go. This is the week. Dave, my excuse is I'm at a huge disadvantage. People are hearing my lineup. They can react against I'm at a huge, that's not true. I cashed all the time last year. I'm just bad.
I was going to say that makes a lot of sense, except I cashed last week. So thank you everybody for watching. Please hit the like, please hit the subscribe, and we'll see you on DraftKings. Click the link below.
Thanks so much for watching. Please, please, please smash that like button, write a comment, tell us who else you'd like to see us review film on, and of course, best of all, please subscribe to our channel and then click that little bell above the subscribe button and you'll be notified whenever we post a new video.